So we can see very clearly after that, such a reading as that, we can see why the Mass is called a sacrifice. As we know that the Mass is a sacred meal and is a holy meal where we eat holy food so that we can live holier lives. And we speak often of it as a meal, but it is also a sacrifice, the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And we can see so clearly from these scriptures how it is also a sacrifice as well as a meal. Because a sacrifice always has two parts. One must first have the attitude of sacrifice. And we have to have the attitude which says, I'm willing to suffer patiently, as it says in our gospel of Jesus. I'm willing to suffer patiently for the sake of some good being done. Not because it will make me a somebody to suffer. No, but because there's some good that can never be done unless I patiently suffer here, unless I make a sacrifice here. And so we have to have that attitude of sacrifice. We'll never sacrifice anything without first having the attitude. And we see that so much in the garden where Jesus, in the Garden of Gethsemane, your will be done and not mine, which is a way of saying, I have the attitude of sacrifice. I am willing to sacrifice if it is your will. Something won't happen unless this is done. This must be done for the good to happen. I am willing. So that's the first part of sacrifice. We must have that attitude of sacrifice. And then secondly, we have to apply it to some part of our life. Jesus applied it to his suffering, his really being tortured and crucified. Ours is not going to be that dramatic, but we all have something that we need, some place where we need to apply the attitude. We have the attitude of sacrifice, but then where does it need to be applied in our lives? Is it that person? Is it that situation? Is it that institution? Is it that culture? Is it our country? Is it our world? Is it someone else is suffering who needs someone to stand in it with them? Maybe we can't solve their problem, but we can be company in their struggle, and they need us simply to be company in their struggle and stand with them and suffer with them patiently. Where is it in our lives that we need to make a sacrifice? We need to apply the attitude of sacrifice and do it for someone, for God, for the Spirit of God that's moving us. So every single Mass we ever celebrate, we have not only the meal, we have the sacrifice of the Mass. Every single Mass we celebrate, we represent the suffering, the sacrifice of Jesus all over again. And we do it over and over and over again every Mass so that it will open our hearts to the attitude of sacrifice too. And we will say, I see what Jesus has done for me. I am opening my heart to have the attitude of sacrifice for what needs to be done in order to make things truly better for me, for the world, for someone else, for my church. And then we have to apply that attitude. We come here, we hear of Jesus and his sacrifice, and it opens our hearts. It inspires us to have that same attitude. And then we look at our lives in prayer. And we say, where is my life speaking to me? Where is God speaking to me? Where is the Spirit leading me? Where is the call? Where is that call, that faint call that says you need to take and apply your attitude of sacrifice to this situation? You need to make a sacrifice too, along with Jesus, and unite your sacrifice to his. This is where you need to embrace patient suffering, the sacrifice of patient suffering. This is the place in your life where it needs to be applied. And so that happens every single Mass. It is not only a meal, it is also the sacrifice of the Mass. And so let us come now, as we continue this celebration and gather around the altar, let us come with that attitude after hearing of Christ's attitude of sacrifice and his great, incredible sacrifice for us. Let's open our hearts to receive that attitude, and let us seek the wisdom of God as we continue the Mass. Where is that situation in my life that calls me to embrace the patient suffering of sacrifice for the sake of Christ?